So we began this Finances 101 series. And I want to be honest. As you can see, I've been very honest today. The church has 3 years, and we hadn't taught about finances not even once. There are 2 reasons for that. The first one is because I wanted to wait till the church was ready to hear a series about finances, because people have been abused with this theme. We come from churches usually where we feel manipulated or we feel controlled, or they speak about sowing, but sometimes I tell them, is it sowing or is un asalto? When they tell you your money, your life, okay? And they begin saying things like, if you don't, it's like a pact, a covenant, and if you don't pact with God and you give $1,000, then, or if you give 1,000, He's going to heal your son, and and when I hear that, my heart, I get angry. I cannot imagine what God feels. So there was something inside of me. I think I had a little bit of fear of teaching about money, because I didn't want to be identified or related to some people that have used these teachings to manipulate people or to take their money away. Basically, that's the right reason. I mean, not the right reason, the reason why many of them are doing it. But I just felt from God that we needed to start a finances series. It's called Finances 101. And they told me my wife did a great job last Sunday. That's what they said. That Jesse killed it. And I want to start about saying or asking a question. Let's be honest. Who likes stuff here? Who likes things? Things. I love things. In fact, one of my love languages is gifts. When they give me gifts, I love gifts. And good gifts. By the way, my birthday is November the 21st. That's from the Spirit. Okay, November 21st. Just for you guys to know. Scorpio. No, I'm kidding. November the 21st. And I'm going to show you a couple of stuff. ¿Tienes la foto ahí, Isa? When I was a teenager, okay, this Nike shoe, this is not new, let me tell you. These are the original Nike shoes. They're beautiful. The Cortez Nike shoes. Beautiful Nike shoes. I used to study in a very, very expensive school. It was one of the most expensive schools in Colombia. And when I was around 12, 13 years old, that I loved having the best stuff. And I had Puma, I had my Zika Varicis pants. I don't know if you know about that, but are like the MC Hammer pants that they come like to here, and even, you puedes guardar cosas ahí si tú quieres. And my Zika Varicis, I had my ID number shirts and with the paisleys. Yes, the members only. And my father and my mother, we went into a very bad financial situation because of my grandfather, and we lost everything. So I would hang out with the richest kids in town, and I wouldn't have a penny. So, but I love to have good stuff. So my mom, man, my mom tells me, Jose, you're so different from Gabriel, your brother. Said, we would go to the United States or in Barranquilla, she said, and you would ask me for pants that were worth, in those times, I mean, hundreds of dollars, the good jeans. And my brother would say, don't give me pants, give me the money. So he would go with the money to this place where they would sell the fake ones. And he would buy, instead of $200 pants, like a $20 pants, and use the rest of the money, to invest. And he was so intelligent, man. And I love good brands. So this one, you have the other picture? How many of you would like this car? It's a beautiful car. This is the car of my dreams. Beautiful car, right? Range Rover, yes. I think Arrow will fit there, Gabby. And how many of you like phones? How many of you want an iPhone XS Max? Yes, I have the iPhone 3. No. This is an Apple church. We know the real gospel in this church, okay? If you're an Android person or PC person, we can pray for you at the end of the service, because God, He loves everybody. You understand that. And I don't know if you are like me, but when I have something new, let's say I buy a new phone and in 6 months the new model comes out, I hate my phone. And I already want the new one. Although I've matured, okay? And I don't get upset about it, but I would love the new one. And I just don't let it take my sleep away. When I was young, we would come to the States, and instead of going to toy stores, I would go to Sports Authority. And I would love soccer balls. I was a soccer player. Next one. Or maybe you would like, a PS4. To spend your time in a very effective and efficient way. I'm from the Atari time. And we had this game called Combat. And it was Combat. And you have these little two tanks. I mean, horrible pixelated tanks. It's not a tank. It's like a rectangle with 4 rectangles. And they will go like, and they will shoot like, and you could go have breakfast before the bullet would arrive to the next. No, you would have breakfast, have a nap. And have a nap. And you would come and you would still have time like to steer them. Yes, and then the joystick and the red button. So I love stuff. It's the truth. I love stuff. And God has taught me to manage my money wisely. Because if I allowed my emotions and my desire for stuff to govern my spending, I would have no money. We would have money in the bank. I mean, my kids will be eating I don't know what. And who loves stuff here? I want to know. You know that since we're very little, you know what's one of the first words that we learn? Mine. Mine. When Ale was born, I mean, we would buy her everything. Everything. And she would play with a spoon. So she would have Barbie dolls, castles, everything. And she would take like a wooden spoon, not even like the silver spoon. And she would, and she was happy with the spoon. And she wouldn't use her toys. And then one day, let's say a couple of friends, would come to our house and they would bring like a little kid or a little girl. And that girl, the moment she would try to take one of Alice's dolls, Ale would, let go that spoon and go to that girl, yank the doll away from her and she would go like, mine. And I said, but she hasn't played with the doll, never, ever. But it's something that we have inside. I think the first sin that manifests in us is the love for money and possessions. And God knows that. That's why in the Bible, there are over 2,000 verses that speak about money and possessions. There's no other theme in the Bible that God speaks more about than money. But in the church, we don't want to speak about money because some churches only speak about money. Wow. And since we usually go from abuse to lack of use. From abuse to no use at all, instead of going from abuse to the right use of things. So when we feel abused and we feel manipulated and we've been controlled or somebody has abused their authority over our lives, what we do is we usually tend to go to the other extreme. And that's what happened to me. And that's why for 3 years I haven't taught about money. But the Bible has over 2,000 passages that speak about money. Why does God care so much about money? Listen to this. Because God knows that money and things are His main competition in our heart. I want you to read that. God knows that money and things are His main competition in our heart. Last week, my wife spoke about the scarcity cycle. I don't know if you have Isa, the scarcity cycle in Spanish? Okay, that's fine. Basically, the scarcity cycle teaches that God provides. Repeat after me, God provides. God provides. Then what we do, we begin to consume. God provides, we consume. After we consume, we lack. After we lack, we fear. And because we have fear, then we begin consuming again. And we get slaved in that cycle of consuming, lacking, fear, consuming, lacking, fear. And then we have to find 2 jobs, 3 jobs. And then we don't have time for the family. We don't have time for the kids. We don't have time for the marriage. Because we're in a scarcity cycle where God provided in the beginning. But then because our heart is so consumed by consumption. And because our lack of identity, we tend to look for value in things. And because we think that people are going to love us more or value us more if we're in style, if we have the shoes that everybody's wearing. I don't understand young people. I mean, I used to do the same thing. But young people say, we want to be different. And they all wear the same thing. You see, they just want to be different from the older generation. But they had the same t-shirts, the same shoes, the same jeans, same haircut, same color of hair. Because we feel valued and important when we have things that make us feel accepted by other people. And then we become enslaved in that cycle, the scarcity cycle. God provides, we consume, we lack, we fear, we consume, we buy more, we lack, we fear. And the only places that are always packed in the United States are shopping malls. There's a scarcity cycle. Thank you, Isa. You're so good. But we need to change from the scarcity cycle to the abundance cycle. Repeat after me, the abundance cycle. And I'm going to speak to you about something very good. It's two mindsets. And let me tell you something. Scarcity begins in the mind, not in the wallet. I just wanted to, leave that there. Scarcity begins in the mind, not in the wallet. I know people that have a lot of money and they live in a scarcity cycle. I know people that cannot even enjoy what God has given them. And I know people that God gives them all the opportunities to prosper in life and they don't prosper because misery is in your mind. God wants us to change from the scarcity cycle to the abundant cycle, from the scarcity mindset to the abundant mindset. Two mindsets. Mark 6:34, and that's what we're going to teach today. Mark 6:34 says, Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the nearby farms and villages and buy something to eat. Repeat after me, buy. Buy. But Jesus said, you feed them. With what? They asked. We'd have to work for months to earn enough money to buy food for all these people. How much bread do you have? He asked. Listen to that. How much bread do you have? He asked. Go and find out. They came back and reported, we have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. You see, the mindset of the disciples is we need to buy. It was on buy. The mindset of Jesus was on give. So our mindset is on buy. So how much do we have to work? How much money do we need to buy all the food to feed this multitude? Now the Bible says there were 5,000 people. In those times, they only counted men. They wouldn't count the wives and the children. And in those times, they loved to have a lot of children. So if you calculate, no TV, no PS4. So if you calculate 3 kids per family, so it's 5 per family, 5,000 times 5 is 25,000 people. So basically, Jesus is telling them, you go feed 20,000 people. And they say, you're crazy. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We cannot do that. Imagine how much we would have to work to buy the food for all these people. And Jesus says, what do you have? What a great question. What do you have? We must move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. You know what scarcity says? Scarcity says, there is not enough. That's scarcity. There is not enough. When you have a scarcity mindset, there is never enough. Listen to that. You see, the scarcity mindset is waiting for the moment when you have enough. But the truth is, the Bible says in Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks, that's the way he is. The Bible teaches that the way we think determines the way we live. So if scarcity is not in the wallet, it is in the mindset. When you have a scarcity mindset, your mindset begins to govern and control everything you do, the way you act. So you're thinking, no. The day I have enough money in the bank, I will feel at peace and secure, and that I can live, the life I want. But your own mindset will never allow you to think you have enough. Because the scarcity mindset is, there is not enough. Because you will always want something more. You see, you have to ask yourself the question, when is it enough? Oh, this is the car I've always dreamed. And the day you have it, Are you going to be happy with it? Are you going to be thankful? Or immediately you're going to be thinking about the other car that you need, not that you need, that you want. Because you know how young kids speak nowadays? Daddy, I need an iPhone XS Max. You don't need an iPhone. You want an iPhone. Scarcity mindset. There is not enough. John 6:7, Philip replied, listen to this. Even if we worked for months, wow, the Holy Spirit is speaking to me. We wouldn't have enough money to feed them. Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them. Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd? Jesus, what you're asking for is impossible. Even if we worked, it will never be enough. I don't know if this has happened to you. But maybe you come, through a tough financial season and suddenly things begin to get better. You find a good job. They're paying you on time. You begin to pay your debts. And then one day you say, honey, next month we're going to be debt free. How many of you want that? Okay, I mean debt free. And then suddenly Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department sends you a bill for $1,200. Pastor, that's impossible. No, it's not, because that's the bill I received 2 weeks ago. That's a demonic thing. $1,200. I mean, I'm not a fire department. How much water do they think I use? We went from $200 every 3 months to $1,200. So I called these people and they told me, I think you have a leak. I said, a leak? You mean like a river or something like that? Like a leak or a creek? So 2 toilets were leaking. I didn't know toilets could spend so much water. And then I think she told me, maybe you have a leak also underground. I mean, yo no soy un topo. How do you want me to get down there and I know if I have a leak? And so listen. So Jesse and I, we've been going through a good financial season. And suddenly, these people, they slam us with $1,200 bill. You know what I felt immediately? This is the scarcity cycle, or the scarcity mindset. Listen. There will never be enough. Something's going to happen, always. I will never come out of debt. I don't have a scarcity mindset. But everybody in those situations, the scarcity mindset is going to try to come and begin to control the way you think. So I don't have a scarcity mindset, but I felt the fear in my mind. And I felt like it's never enough. We're not going to come out of this. And listen, and the first thought that came is, we have to save. We have to save. We have to save. We have to save things that we don't need. I mean, we don't need to tithe. And we give an offering to other people. We don't need to send that. I mean, we need to save, because the lady said, I called her, and she said, I'm going to do something good for you. Okay, what is it? I'm going to give you till November 9 to pay. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your generosity. You're so kind. And I told Jesse, we need to save. And we need to save. When you have a scarcity mindset, the moment a financial situation comes, immediately you begin to try to save. And okay, I cannot spend money. Because you think that with your effort, you're going to come out of that situation. Now, the mindset of abundance says there is more than enough. Repeat after me, there is more than enough. And Matthew 14:20 said, they all ate as much as they wanted, and afterward the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. Scarcity asks, what can I afford? Abundance asks, what do I have? What can I afford? What do I have? Jesus said, what do you have? So this morning I come, and this guy comes and says, Pastor, what's the name of, the guy that translates for you? The rapper? I said, Gregory, I have this for him. And he gave him $200 offering. And I know they need it. with the baby arrow coming and all that. I said, wow, Lord, you're so good. And he saw me happy and said, and I have this for you. $1,000. $1,000. You see, it's not a transaction. Because the moment you begin to see God in a transactional way, you lose it. I'm not giving to receive. You see, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with who's first in my heart. Because God knows when you are faithful and generous, He knows He can trust you with His abundance. Yes, and they gave me another offering, a miraculous offering, $250 Thursday, $1,000 today, $300 more. So I got $1,600, $1,700. So I said, I don't know if you feel me. I don't know if you feel me. Okay? So I want to speak about two things, basically. Because in God there is always more than enough. In God there is always more than enough. In God there is always more than enough. So I want to speak about two principles of God's economy in 15 minutes. First, repeat after me. God multiplies what is blessed. Once again, God multiplies what is blessed. Mark 6:41, listen to this. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven and blessed them. What's the first thing Jesus did with the bread and the fish? He blessed them. Then breaking the loaves into pieces, He kept giving the bread to the disciples so they could distribute it to the people. He also divided the fish for everyone to share. So listen to this. The reason the fish and the bread multiplied, or God did a miracle of multiplication, is because it was blessed. So if you want to see a miracle of multiplication in your finances, your economy, you need your finances to be blessed. Unless your economy is blessed, it won't be multiplied. So you say, okay, so how can I have a blessed economy? How can I ask God to bless my finances? Malachi 3:10. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, so there will be enough food in my temple. Repeat after me. Bring all the tithe. You see, if you do, says the Lord of heaven's army, I will open the windows of heaven for you. I will pour out a blessing so great you won't have enough room to take it in. Put me to the test. When we return the tithe, God releases the blessing. You see, returning the tithe releases God's blessing. Returning the tithe releases God's blessing. You don't give a tithe, you return a tithe, because the tithe doesn't belong to me, the tithe belongs to God. So when I understand that principle and I bring the tithe back to God, it releases God's blessing over my finances, and that blessing creates the miracle of multiplication. That's the way it works. You know, the floodgates of heaven. When the Hebrew heard the floodgates of heaven here in Malachi, they said, floodgates of heaven. What do you think what story they were reminded of? Noah's, the flood. You know what happened during the flood? All the earth was covered. Nothing was untouched by the water. When you're faithful with your tithe, nothing will be untouched by God's blessing. Nothing. That's the first thing. God, so I put here, the tithe shows that God is first in our heart and that He can trust us with the abundance of heaven. Second thing, God multiplies what is given away. Listen to this. God multiplies what is blessed. And the way that it is blessed is when I return the tithe, God releases a blessing over my finances. It brings multiplication. Second, God multiplies what is given away. Listen to this principle. Matthew 14:19. Then He told the people to sit down on the grass. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven and blessed them. Then breaking the loaves into pieces, He gave the bread to the disciples who distributed to the people. Question: where did the miracle happen? I want you to think about that. 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. Jesus takes the bread, blesses it, breaks it, gives it to the disciple distributes it to the people. So where did the multiplication happen? Where do you think it happened? When it was given? That's very good. Let me tell you, because this is what maybe some people think. Father, I bless this, and suddenly mountains of bread and fish appear on the back of Jesus. Like, what? Imagine how many bread and fishes for 25,000 people. So can you imagine that? Father, and I bless this bread. Mountains of bread and fish. So then they would only take from the bread and just give it away. But it didn't happen that way. Because sometimes we want to bless it and see God multiply our bank account. Like if magically $100,000 are going to appear there. So then you say, okay, God bless me. Now I can spend the money. Now I can allocate my resources. But it didn't happen that way. You see, God's provision is not the multiplication in the bank account. God's provision is the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish. That's what God provides. Then God multiplies his provision if it is blessed and given away. God only multiplies what he provides when it is blessed and given away. God doesn't give you multiplication. God gives you provision. Does that make sense? So what happened? Listen to this. Jesus breaks the bread, gives it away. The moment the bread left Jesus' hand, the miracle happened. It had to leave Jesus' hand. You won't experience multiplication if you don't let things go. And that's what takes faith. You see, if God did magically multiply your bank account, it doesn't take faith. Because you just go, the money's there. But if you have to believe for God to multiply every time, the only thing you have leaves your hand. Do you see the difference? Because if I have $2 million in the bank and I'm going to give away 1,000, that doesn't take faith. That only takes like a good heart. But if I don't have there nothing, everything is in my hand. And I'm going to believe that when I give it away, I'm still going to have something left in my hand. How do you explain that? How do you explain that you spend and give it away and you still have money? And then you give it away and you still have money? I cannot explain it, but I'm a witness to it. Because my wife and I have been living like that for the last 10 years of our lives. We should be living in scarcity. Because I went from a super salary. You have to understand, we had a $7 million building. We had a beautiful house in Doral Isles. We had a Mercedes, an Infiniti, the van. And one day the Lord tells us, give it all away. All. So now I'm reading this and I'm understanding. It's like God saying, you want to see me multiply? You need to give it away. So we gave it away and we went from having everything we wanted, not what we needed, everything we wanted, from traveling the world. I mean, incredible, to going into the pantry to see if you eat banana with rice. To be very creative with food. Because we couldn't choose food. We just had to choose the food we have. And one thing is when you have to do that for you. It's another thing when you have to do it for your children. And they tell you, I don't like this, Daddy. Or when we went to McDonald's one day and we only had $3. And we bought 3 cheeseburgers for 99 cents. And I had to go to the car to see the coins in the floor to pay the taxes. And it was cheeseburger with water. And then I thank God that my children love water. So let me tell you, we have never lacked. Not only that, what God has been doing in our lives now, we build this. We say, we build this. We obey God, but we build this. $0. The first month we came here, $7,500 rent. No salary. No people. No nothing. So not only believe for our household, believe for the church. And I worked 2 years with no salary. And we never lacked nothing. And we never stopped tithing. I didn't have a salary. When I preached, here and there, they would give me an offering. My tithes, and my offering. My tithes, my offering. And then at the end of the year, we would bring, the reports, the financial reports of the church, of what people had tithed. And we were always in the first 10 families of the biggest tithers in church. And I would tell her, where did that money come from? How in the world we're there if I don't have a salary? It's a miracle. God multiplies what is given away. The thing is that I cannot do that for you. Because some of you are like Whoopi Goldberg. In Ghost, is it Ghost? When she has the $1 million check and she wants to give it away to the nun, she's like, she doesn't want to let it go. She doesn't want to let it go. That's why the Bible says that it's more blessed to. That's the miracle. God multiplies what he gives away. Proverbs 11:24, give freely. Listen, is that the Christian life is like counterintuitive. Because Jesus says, okay, you want to find your life, you got to lose it. Come on, man. And if you lose it, you find it. And if you find it, you lose it. And somebody curses you, you got to bless him. And if you want to be the least, ¿cómo que se dice? El mayor es el menor. The greater is the least. And the least is the greater. So finances is the same thing. Listen what Proverbs 11:24 says. Give freely and become more wealthy. You say, it doesn't say save and work hard and become more wealthy. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed.